Hi, welcome to the vipHome podcast. I'm Dana with vipHome Link, and today we have Eugenia Blackstone from Iris, powered by Generali.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, what led you to the cybersecurity business? And please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I work for Iris, powered by Generali. I'm the chief marketing officer there, and I've actually been there for coming up on 12 years. I think this October will be 12 years, which feels like a really long time, especially considering how much like the space has evolved. But it's gone by pretty quickly. But what led me to the cybersecurity business? We actually have a number of different business units at our organization, and so I didn't start out in the cybersecurity space. I actually started out on a different business line, and I'm one of those people that I'm just really curious about things that I don't know. And so I gravitated towards that business and had some success there, and eventually was tapped to kind of come over and do the marketing for the business. Again, it's 12 years has kind of flown by, but as a space, as a business, we've been in the space for almost 20 years. Our 20-year anniversary is next year. And so we started out back in 2004 providing resolution services. And so this was before, the average person even knew what a data breach was. And, fast forward to today, it's a completely different, space. And so as the space has evolved and, not for the great in all cases, we've evolved as well. And so now we provide a variety of identity protection and cybersecurity protection services.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a very interesting space.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and again, it continues to evolve. So I just keep learning as we go along.
It makes your job fun.
Yes, it does.
So, close to 3 in 4 homeowners with smart home tech devices are concerned that someone can gain access to their device without their permission. Do these homeowners need to be worried?
Yes, unfortunately. I mean, I don't want to have people stressing out or kind of losing sleep at night over this. But I think to not think about it at all, particularly if you have, a lot of smart home devices in your home, to just kind of turn a blind eye to it or stick your head in the sand and think that there's no reason to be worried or concerned, is almost like a recipe for disaster. You're really setting yourself up to really increase your risk of victimization or having some negative consequences by owning these devices. So again, don't want people to be unnecessarily worried, but I do think it's important to kind of educate yourself and know what you can do to reduce your risk.
So, almost half of the US internet households have experienced at least one data security or a privacy problem. So, what type of problems are these? Is it like hackers? Is it information just exposed on the internet? Like, what does that look like? And also, what steps can homeowners take to prevent a data security or privacy problem at their home?
Yeah, so for the first half of your question, yes and yes, it's kind of all of the above. So the white paper that we recently did with Parks, the research that they did, that data came out to show that 9% of families had hackers gain access to their device. 16% had their information sold to other companies, their personal data actually being sold to other companies. And 11% had suffered some sort of virus or spyware infection on their device. So those were just the ones kind of called out specifically in the paper. But on top of that, these smart tech owners can deal with
Right.
things like their private information becoming public, companies using or tracking their online activity, for example, for marketing purposes or other purposes that the user didn't intend or consent to. There's been unwanted recordings of their voices or images or activities. I won't call anyone out, but there have been a lot of things in the news lately about this sort of thing. And then you just top that off with the what I don't want to call them normal, but quote unquote normal things. Somebody lost a device that had personal data on it, or a device was stolen that had personal data on it. And all of these things can lead to identity theft.
It's scary. I mean, and it should be in the back of everybody's mind of how to protect your devices the best that you can.
Yeah. And so I think it's scary, but there are two approaches you can take, right? You can be scared and say, all right, there's no, you just kind of become apathetic to the situation. There's nothing I can do about it. And, I'm doomed, which is not obviously what we want. Or you can really use it to say, I'm going to empower myself. I'm going to reduce my risk as best as possible so that it's not something I need to be so fearful about. Because what it really comes down to is you need to be able to operate in the world that we live in, right? So I'm not suggesting that we go back to the Stone Age. So how do you keep yourself, protected in the century that we're in now? And so the first thing really is for customers to understand the threats and the risks that they're dealing with. So, step one is awareness, admitting, I have these devices and there are risks associated with them. And so I think educating yourself automatically just kind of brings your risk down to a certain perspective or a certain level, excuse me. Secondly, and I cannot echo this enough, and this is such a basic thing, change your passwords, people. Please change your passwords. I mean, do whatever you need to do to help you remember do that, whether it is setting some random password so that every time you log into a tool, especially if it's something you don't use very frequently, it's requiring you to reset the password. If it's putting reminders on your calendar or whatever it is that you need to do that will help different strokes for different folks, so to speak. You will need to figure out what works best for your lifestyle. But I think anything you can do to consistently be changing your passwords and be using unique passwords is really going to drastically lower your risk. If you are reusing the same passwords, particularly if they are across sensitive websites or connected to your devices, or your email, which people think is less risky, but it's not, because if you think about the types of information you may be emailing or what's in your sent files, it's scary. Like, you may have around tax time your social security number in there. You may have downloaded W-2s or things like that. And so all of these things become really, really important. So I would say change your passwords. And I don't say that in a judgmental way for people that are not doing it. It's more just encouragement to understand that piece is really, really important. Specific to kind of the smart home space, there are some experts that even recommend having two separate kind of secure Wi-Fi networks, one that is for your personal devices and one that is for your smart home products only. People have to decide, again, if that works for them. Again, now you got two different kind of networks that you're managing and passwords you need to remember. But again, I think for a lot of people, that can be a really beneficial thing to do. Some other things that are really important are to stay on top of the updates for your devices. This goes right along with kind of the passwords thing. It's something that people underestimate the importance of this, but if folks do even a little bit of searching online, they'll realize that most of the major data breaches that have happened in the last 5 to 10 years or so have been related to just security updates that were not done. I mean, most of the time, those device updates are patching some sort of security vulnerability that the company has either discovered or that's been made aware to them. And so that's their way of kind of pushing out a correction to these security vulnerabilities. So if you're not doing the updates, then you're not having that, and you're kind of really leaving yourself an open door for cyber criminals, to come and attack. And the one point I'll make about the device updates, because I have in the past fallen victim to this, you will set automatic updates on your device. And what you don't necessarily keep in mind all the time is, in order for that update to happen, it may need to be plugged up. It may need to be at a certain battery percentage. It may need, so it's important to just kind of be mindful of those things. And it's not a bad practice, again, maybe every 30 days to just go in and check and make sure the updates have downloaded. But for sure, if there is a default kind of automated way you can set up your device so that it automatically does the updates, that's kind of the best thing you can do. And then the last thing I would say is really try to seek out companies that are already demonstrating they care about your data privacy, whether that is they're, again, making it easy for you to set automatic updates on the device, because some manufacturers make that a lot less complicated than others,
Right.
whether they are proactively partnering with a provider like Iris to offer you identity protection or, online data protection or other things like that. That is a really good way to really impress upon via your dollar, the money that you're spending with them, that this stuff matters to me and it should matter to you if you want to continue to retain my business.
For sure. For sure. It's that free SOS of like, hey, take advantage of that instead of, like you're saying, being victim to identity theft or.
Absolutely.
And
And one other thing, I mean, identity thieves, like I guess most thieves of all kinds, they tend to take the path of least resistance, right? So if you are not doing some of the most basic things, it's not to say that if you do all of these things, you will absolutely never have a situation happen, but it is to say it greatly reduces your risk because it's so much easier to go after somebody that's left the default password on their router or their smart home device versus someone who's changed it to a unique password or something like that. And so I want to underscore the importance of even doing just some of these most basic things will drastically bring your risk down.
That's really good information. So, Iris by Generali can help smart home tech owners with malware, ransomware, and viruses. What are the difference between all of those?
Yeah. So we definitely can help in all of those areas, but I do want to make the distinction that Iris Powered by Generali is a B2B2C. So essentially what that means is we provide our services to other organizations to then provide to the end consumer or their customers in that case. So we'll partner with other businesses, organizations in the smart home space, for example, to be able to provide solutions and tools to assist with these sorts of things. So the differences between the three, though, malware or malicious software is a longer name for it, is really any kind of software that's designed to cause damage to your data in your kind of computer system or that's being used to gain some sort of unauthorized access to your network. Viruses and ransomware are just two other types of malware. There are all sorts of forms of malware that exist. The latter, ransomware, being one that they will actually, or the hacker will actually lock up your device and not allow you to access it, and they'll threaten to delete it or, just not allow you to gain access back to it until you pay them some monetary, amount to get access to those files back.
It's crazy what people can do with your devices.
Yep. Especially if you're not protecting them. Absolutely. It would be like, just leaving your phone in an unlocked phone in an open crowd and just assuming you can disappear and nobody will look in it.
It'll be there when you come back.
Yeah, exactly. You're leaving an open window. And, unfortunately, that is typically not the case, so hackers are always trying to be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead. And so it's important that you do as much as you can to kind of, again, reduce your risk.
For sure. So 67% of consumers want cybersecurity add-ons with their devices, which I would think it would be more, but maybe people just don't understand the importance of it. So what types of cybersecurity add-ons are out there, and how do smart home tech owners take advantage of that through these other companies, to get Iris?
Absolutely. So I think to your point, a lot of people may not understand how these add-ons can help them. And so maybe that's why the percentage wasn't higher than that. I think the most common ones that consumers are aware of are like firewalls and antivirus software. A firewall is just designed to be kind of how it sounds. It's essentially to kind of block out traffic that's kind of trying to enter or leave your network. While antivirus is what they call kind of an endpoint security solution. So it's going to make sure that the files coming into your system don't have any sort of viruses present on them that can harm your devices. Both of those are incredibly important in protecting devices from hackers. And I hope that we get to a place, where the space continues to evolve, because both of those things are pretty common now on a lot of devices that you get. Just as a default, those things will be included. And so I'm hoping that as time goes on, there are other things that will start to become kind of the standard or the table stakes when you get a new device. So there are other more focused add-ons, ones that we provide. We have a solution called PhishBlock, which is an anti-phishing software. So it will detect software as it comes in and tell you if it is known for phishing, and it will actually keep you from opening that sort of software so that it cannot infect your device. There's Ransom Stop. We have as well, which helps protect users from ransomware. It'll give you, kind of a huge alert that'll let you know, hey, this is not a good site for you to be going to. It can, if you go there, it can actually lock up your computer and allow hackers to take over control of your device. And then lastly, we also offer something called Data Scrambler, which this one is really cool because it essentially scrambles up all your data. So every time you hit a keystroke, the software will change what that keystroke is. So if you type a T, one time it may show up as a P or a V, so that if somebody is tracking your device or they're able to see what you're typing, they're not getting the correct information. So that one's also very helpful. Again, I think in this space, we have some ways to go before, some of the best things out there just kind of become basic add-ins. But again, I think the best things that consumers can do is really be proactive about asking, what sort of additional protections do I get with this device? And I feel like the more manufacturers and device makers in this space get those sorts of questions, they will recognize that it is something that people, care about, and it'll impact who they decide to do business with ultimately.
So what happens if it's a worst case scenario and a hacker takes over a person's smart home device or server? Like, how does it actually happen, and how does someone gain access to any of the devices?
Typically, first of all, there are a variety of ways that hackers can infiltrate your system. But one of the most common ways is they'll come through the Wi-Fi network, which is why, at the outset of the conversation, I talked a lot about making sure you change the password on your router, those sorts of things, and staying on top of that. So they can actually come through your Wi-Fi network, and then anything that's connected to your Wi-Fi, they can access it through there. Anything that's connected to the Wi-Fi, they can figure out how to get through there. And another way is they can do it the other way around, where they can figure out how to access a particular device that you have. I don't want to pick on baby monitors, but since I use that at the outset as an example, let's say it's a baby monitor or your smart home doorbell or whatever the case may be, and they figure out how to hack that and then work their way back the other directions. And so there are a variety of ways. I'm sure some hacker is sitting around right now trying to figure out some other way to do it. So there are a number of ways. But I think when we talk about what a homeowner should do in this situation, first thing is unplug stuff. So let me also back up. I think one of the trickiest things is typically a homeowner doesn't know that their device has been hacked until long after it's happened in most cases. I mean, ransomware may be one exception because they are locking up your files. You can't access them. They want money in return to grant you access back to those files. But outside of that, you typically may not know you've been hacked or your system's been infiltrated for long after it's happened. And so in that case, once you do start to discover these anomalies, maybe your devices are moving very slowly, or they're acting very oddly, or for whatever reason, you're able to ascertain that this has happened to you. Again, number one is kind of shut off the power source or disconnect the device to kind of stop everything in its tracks. And that'll also give you time to kind of think, because when people get nervous and they get freaked out, they don't know what to do. And so first thing is just, pull the cord. Because there's so many different devices out there, and there really isn't, some consistent way to do this across all devices, the very first thing you can do, we recommend, is to reach out to the manufacturer of those devices. And the tricky thing is you want to make sure, folks may not have retained the manuals or things like that, but you want to make sure you're going to that device's website and looking up the customer service for that device, not just contacting some random tech support, not asking Alexa to contact tech support for you, because it may pull up. There are scammers out there that will purposely infiltrate a system, make you aware that that system has been infiltrated in order to trigger you to call their phony kind of tech support so that you can give them all sorts of data and information in their ploy to say they're assisting you in kind of correcting the device. So,
Right.
I would say that's the first thing is go to the customer service for that specific device and have them talk you through the steps of what needs to be done to kind of get the device back working properly and safely on your system.
Mhm.
The other thing I can say, again, we are looking I think when a customer has some sort of service like ours, be it through whatever provider we're partnering with, we have 24/7 resolution support for both identity theft, online, offline, cybersecurity issues, and customers are able to call in and have us walk them through kind of step by step. We can even take control of the device to kind of really carefully look into what the problem is and get everything back corrected. And so I think in that sort of instance, when you don't know what to do, recognize that you're not really equipped.
Qualified.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Own that and then just unplug it and then call the right folks that are experts in getting you,
Yeah.
the right help to get things back connected safely.
Okay, that's really good advice. So are there any other threats that we haven't discussed that homeowners or smart tech owners need to know? I think we've covered a lot of
We've
ground
covered
here.
a lot of them. But what I will say is, the bad guys are always working to stay kind of one step ahead. So it's really important that customers be vigilant.
Mhm.
To top all of that off, just kind of normal evolution, we now have to throw AI in the mix and just kind of the rapid adoption of AI, which could be a whole nother conversation between the two of us. But there are some really, really great use cases for AI. I think AI is going to transform a lot of things for good. But I think, again, people also need to understand and be aware that lots of things that are intended for good end up having unintended, negative consequences. And I think AI is not going to be any different
Right.
in this particular respect. So, can we cover every single threat that's out there? In our talk here today? No, but I think the important thing for consumers to know, again, really impress upon the manufacturers of the devices that you're getting. It's okay to, before you buy a device, call customer service and ask these questions to find out, look at their website. It really is something that may in the moment feel like a headache or one more thing to do to kind of do your research or your due diligence, but it really may end up saving you a huge headache down the road.
Do you feel like there could maybe become a time where it's standard, like all of these powerhouse companies are partnering with Iris, for this to just have everything be in these devices? And, or is it always going to be that add-on? I know there's some that have certain protections, but
So I think, obviously I would love it if every device manufacturer out there said they were going to partner with Iris powered by Generali. That would be great. But, even beyond that, because I'm a consumer first as well, right? So I just hope that whether it's with us or not, that this is something that more manufacturers are taking the lead on understanding. It is to our benefit and to our consumers, been, kind of society as a whole, to better protect consumers as we live in spaces that are becoming more and more connected every day. And I think that, it's important that they understand that they actually have a responsibility to do this and that consumers hold them responsible. There is, again, changing your passwords, all the things that we can do as end consumers. And so we have a responsibility. Each individual has a responsibility, but I think the space, the industry of smart home has a responsibility as well. And so that's one that I hope will evolve. There's like the CSA or Connectivity Standards Alliance that is really working to help ensure that folks are connecting to kind of authentic, certified, up-to-date devices. But there really is no across the board standard just yet, and especially not specific to like data security and those sorts of things. And legislation is not at a place where it's going to do that, and who knows if that will ever be the case. And so I think the best thing that consumers can do in the interim or the meantime of all of these things, these standards kind of happening across the board, is again just being diligent and picky about who you decide to give your money to when you are putting in these sorts of devices.
Right. Well, God, this was a lot of amazing information for all of our viewers and listeners out there. honored to have you on today, and we look forward to many more conversations with you guys as well. And thank you again for stopping by the vipHome podcast, and we look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you.